The biggest caper of the century, in my opinion, is how many of us, I dare say almost all of us, I would say less than 1% of the population of the people even ever really considered that life wasn't normal at all, even pre-2020.
Angelo made chicken pot pie. He made this little one right here.
Garlic.
We have homemade salsa. We're gonna have some tortilla chips. This is a Mexican-American dinner.
It's not as sunny as it usually is when we come down here, and it's actually quite overcast, which means very windy, which makes it difficult to make videos out here. But it's beautiful out here. It's just not like having your own business office with soundproof walls and all that. But let's see what we can pull off for you guys today. But we're at our spot, and it's still a little bit windy. It looks like the cloud cover has blown in and colder weather is coming in here too, although that's relative. So instead of 75, it's going to be like 65. Oops, I'm not rubbing it in. Really, I'm not. But we'll do the best we can to deal with the wind here. But a lot of people are just going through the cycle that we used to talk about. We've got well over 1,000 videos of our travels. We've been traveling for 12 years. We're here in Mexico now. We used to talk a lot more about pros and cons of actually moving permanently abroad. That's what it was all about. Now, we like travel, not all the time. I don't want to bore people here though. But I've talked so much about the cycles, what people go through. And it just seems that it's part of the way we're made. It's people's makeup. It's like they have to go through the cycle and they don't really want to be necessarily told about it in advance, which is a little counter. I have to be careful what I say here because all of our viewers are just going to click out. But not you. Not you. Moving away from that thought, I still think a lot about living in Ecuador. It's still dear to me. You just kind of want to hope and pray for times to go back to a sort of semblance of normality. And there are those that don't want us to believe that we will ever go back to normal. That's just a pipe dream. And the reason is because it never was normal. The biggest caper of the century, in my opinion, is how many of us, I dare say almost all of us, I would say less than 1% of the population of the people even ever really considered that life wasn't normal at all, even pre-2020. And how many of us consider that just going back to pre-2020 would be something to aspire to, which is almost like saying that if you were 90% insane and all of a sudden you became 100% insane, going back to 90% insanity is more comfortable. Yeah, it's more comfortable, but it's not, where you need to be. Which brings me to what happened today. And it's not like we just went there today. And I mean, this is Walmart. This is like an international chain, and they've got, even here in Mexico, the green aisle. And how many of these things have we been told that are somewhat of a normal way of thinking? Of course, some of us saw through it right away, knowing all along. So it's really simple and cheap. You just put up a little sign and you tell people how green the aisle is. In this aisle, it's really green. I find these trees to be beautifully green, much more acceptably green than any sign telling me what to do. What do you think? You want to be told what to do? Hey, come through this aisle because the sign says it's green.
Los de azúcar.
Or do you want to be naturally drawn, like I'm naturally drawn to nature, to plants? Some plants are green, some are yellow, some are purple. I don't focus just on green. What's a scam here, right? But the international chains are the worst when you come to these foreign countries when it comes to this kind of stuff. And it's like I've got a notebook of inventions, new product inventions that I've been making a record of for a while. And the reason I haven't put them out is because how do you trust? I mean, what you're really thinking of doing is sending your idea to get commercialized to some strange group of people, some entity that you don't know. Well, you clearly do know. You know, they've come out of the closet, and now you know. And so you're supposed to trust them to send you money for your idea, and it just doesn't make any sense to me to do it. And so there they sit, my ideas. And you could say, yeah, but you could start your own e-commerce store and all that business. But then you have to go buy from communists, and this is something I haven't done all along all these years. There's always been, and you know, you got all these vloggers and people talking on their channels. Oh, do this, you make all this money. Look how much money I'm making on Amazon. I buy from China, this and that and the other. And you would say, look, they're not all communist. That's true, but and it's like I watched the Retire Early space. Actually, I've been watching it since the 80s. And I've always loved reading stories about people that were able to chuck the rat race and get on a 40-foot boat and go sail the oceans or travel the world. And that's why I ended up doing it. And but the stories have something in common. Every story, you know, is the same. It's like they require people that are in high cost of living areas with six-figure incomes. And when you have two people doing that, you add them together, and it's, you know, a pretty good income. And then it requires just cutting back your expenses to the ridiculous, and then just investing and doing that for like a dozen years. And that's only one way of doing things, by the way. You know, there's not only one way to, well, I was going to say there's not only one way to skip a rock, but I'm not sure how many ways there are to skip a rock. I don't like skin a cat. Why don't you tell me in the comments if there's any other way to put it? I haven't come up with a good one yet, but there are different ways of doing this, and that's not the only way. That's a delayed life plan that I talk about a lot, and so there's different ways of doing it, and that's only one way, but that seems to be the really common way that a lot of people that make YouTube videos about it. And no matter how you choose to do it, regardless of which way you do it, the idea is that you're going for freedom. You're going for freedom no matter how you achieve it, as long as it's ethical and moral and this kind of thing. Whether you do it by having high six-figure incomes and saving a lot, or whether you figured out multiple streams of income or multiple streams of micro enterprise income, or whatever it is that comes easiest for you, it really doesn't matter now, does it? The result's the same. We want our freedom. And being able to move around and live wherever you want, that's a lot of freedom. And there are those that would have us not be able to do that. And it starts out with little things such as a little sign in the aisles, green aisle, come here. Do it this way. Take this chip. Take this fake digital money. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. The price of beef here, relative to USA, you might think, well, it's not that high. A friend of mine said he was paying $5 for a dozen eggs from the Amish, and like $12 a pound for beef. And here it's like $7 to $10 a pound for beef, something like that. Even though it's cheaper, remember that the wages are relatively a lot lower here, so that's a very unreachable kind of a price for people here. And it's interesting because I was reading that Abraham in the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were rich in animal husbandry, and they had more wealth than everybody around them. But the funny thing about it is that those around them that weren't as wealthy and were envious actually despised that kind of work, animal husbandry. Here they are, they despise the work, but yet they're poor compared to the guys that figured out how to optimize animal husbandry and actually use it as a vehicle to create wealth in an agricultural society. Yes, you can create wealth in an agricultural society. People think you have to go invest in the stock market or do something fancy like be a trader and, you know, or invent software. You can do all those things, but when the sign of the times comes around and things change to the point where you're not going to participate in those things, you got to start thinking about doing something different. The You've heard of the camel's nose under the tent. Well, that's what that green sign is here in the Walmart. It might seem like a little thing. Many things start out small. Leaks sink ships. You've heard that. But during the lockdown, the chains, there's a lot of chains here. They were the hardest to deal with. They were the toughest. That tells us something. And there's my inventions. They're still sitting there. I could tell you the story about an invention I had when I was 17 that was stolen from me, but I don't want to bore you with those stories. The fish that got away story. Literally, my invention is being sold globally. I'm not kidding. But I was 17 and I was conned. My parents weren't business people. They weren't watching over anything I was doing, and one thing led to another. My idea was stolen. True story. And it hurts every time I go in a store and I see my invention, and I know it was a unique product and it was a very specific product. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming to the channel and have a wonderful day.